Welcome to episode 85 of Amari Purple Talk, a podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, your imaginationist, comic book myth builder, and the Vic Sage of Funk. Thank you once again for tuning in. Please leave your comments in the comment section below, and please download on your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And please continue to send your questions or topic suggestions for Amari Purple Talk. And how you can do that is by clicking the link in the show notes below, either the website link for Amari Communications or by following me on Twitter at RichardCole_now using the hashtag Amari Purple Talk, and your topic or question might just be read in a future episode. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get started. And we are coming up on the 5th year of Prince's passing. And in the days leading up to April 21st, and probably the rest of the week as well, everyone's going to choose to honor and reminisce and celebrate the musical artistry of Prince. And of course, Amari Purple Talk, we've gotten a lot of requests to do something special as well. Not sure what I can bring to the table on this. It's not like we can, break out a bunch of records and play them as part of the show, not without getting in trouble with the estate or the YouTube police or whoever. But what I'm going to do on this episode is definitely celebrate, keep the thoughts happy. It's not about specific eras. Everyone has their favorite, but like I've mentioned in previous episodes, he's one of the few. You can put him in the same breath as, somebody like Paul McCartney or Bob Dylan. I picked those two because, and Stevie Wonder to a point also, where they've had their classic era where they've had hit after hit after hit, and then kind of a period where maybe an experiment or a different direction kind of yielded mixed results, and then maybe a few more years go by and then they get to a place where they're back on it. The level of quality and consistency, it's on point. And while one can argue that a current album is just as important or is just as great as something from the classic era, and then there are fans that, it's every single note, every note. I remember Prince making a statement in an interview saying that it was imperative to him to have every note that James Brown ever had on record. And, a lot of us in the Prince musical singularity, we're that way too. We want every single note. That's why we obsess over the vault. It's why, we're anxious for the next super deluxe, even though we're still wearing out the grooves on the last set that we bought. And like I said, one of the few to have a following like that. And that's something that's worth celebrating. So today, the Prince musical singularity that we are, that's what we're going to celebrate. And probably through the lens of just my personal experiences. I wish I was better prepared for this topic to have it set up to where a lot of you could have sent in via the topic or questions route to, relate your personal experiences, whether it's a favorite song, favorite album, favorite era, favorite concert, favorite video, favorite film. In fact, jump into the comments below, or again, click any one of the links below, get me word on any one of those suggestions, and I'll gather them all up. And then next episode, we'll continue this in a part 2. We'll book in the week, have it a whole week of celebration. So definitely jump in the comments and do that. But for now, I guess we'll just start with just what's happening currently. We're still hyped about the upcoming Welcome to America release, The Truth. That's getting released on Record Store Day. I'm definitely hyped for both of those projects to be released. Getting both on vinyl. The Welcome to America, I'm going to get the deluxe set. That way I've got a kind of a, an a la carte, a buffet of Prince-ness with the vinyl, the CD, and the Blu-ray, and of course all the posters and the memorabilia. And, I've seen some rumblings about the price of that. And when you really look at it, used to have a coworker several jobs ago. Sometimes we would hang out at Circuit City during lunch or post lunch, and especially right around payday, whatever CD was out or DVD, and then there would be certain box sets of DVDs, certain films, and trying to justify the pricing of it. We'd see the price and go, okay, that's all right, $30. All right, and that breaks it down. Let's see, there's about maybe 3 CDs. That's about $10 a CD. A DVD. All right, that sounds reasonable. And I kind of apply that logic with the deluxe version, because you're looking at the going rate of just a single vinyl. That's now what, 25 to 35, depending on what it is, who it is. So $25 to $35 retail for just a single vinyl, 180 gram vinyl. So you have 2 LPs, so you're averaging about $35 to $45 or so. Add another $10 for the CD. Blu-ray, single Blu-ray a lot of times, depending on what it is. You've got $15, $16, $17, $18, $19 to about $25, $26. So you add all that together, plus all the pretty pictures, posters, and little cards and memorabilia that come with it. So, the price tag, if you're gauging it on Amazon, wherever you are, yeah, then it's reasonable, it's justifiable. But like I said last week, do what fits your budget. It's only a bargain if it benefits you. Just just give, if you just want to get the single CD, get the single CD. If you just want to get, just the deluxe set, get the deluxe set. It's up to you. But the thing is that we're celebrating a release of an album we've never heard before. And for me, what's really exciting about that is, for me, 2010 was sort of that album was sort of the beginning of where I was just really enjoying the Prince album from beginning to end, just about. Where some of the releases, maybe the last two or three prior to that, it was sort of, okay, I like some of the songs on it, or I like, one side of it, or the first half had two or three, the second half had two or three, and would struggle with the rest of it. See a clip of him doing something live, and it would be better than, the track that I was struggling with. It's like, well, why couldn't he have done that version? Hopefully something like 2010 will be reissued, or actually issued here in the United States for the very first time. To me, that is a really good album. I mean, comparing it to any classic album from any classic era, it might not hold up for some. But for me, I thought it was the beginning of getting to that level of quality and consistency that I mentioned in regards to, other artists where, they might have had whether it was a creative slump, or again, just a level of experimentation or going in a different direction that might have left a lot of the fan base flat. And then they would start to regain footing by, getting into a groove, or just being comfortable being at a certain age to where, okay, I'm not going to worry about being contemporary, or I'm not going to worry about competing on the charts or whatever. I'm just going to do great music, or just focus on creating the best music that I can create. And to me, 2010 was the beginning of that. And then that started to pave the way for, say, an artificial age. To me, that is, as far as the more 21st century era, that is my absolute favorite album of that era. And to me, it holds up well against a lot of the classic material. Because again, I'm not expecting Prince at 55 to try to sound like Prince at 25. So I'm not really looking for Controversy 2 or Purple Rain 2 or 1999 2.0. With Artificial Age, I mean, it was a good mix of what we know Prince to do, plus incorporating a lot of the sounds. But to me, I think he felt more comfortable, or maybe that's not the right way to describe it. To me, where people debate the merits of utilizing hip hop in, say, something like Diamonds and Pearls or the Symbol album, to me, with Artificial Age, some of the tracks on Hit and Run Phase 1, there was a balance to where he was able to blend the contemporary sounds, but have it sound fresh, unique, or he was able to put his spin on it in a way that, to me, worked a lot better than what was done, say, with Diamonds and Pearls, that album, or the Symbol album. And, even some of the 90s stuff, that I did enjoy, whether it was 18 and Over, Hide the Bone, any place where Prince rapped or utilized hip hop, to me, it was more effective by the time we got to Artificial Age, and by the time we got to, Hit and Run Phase 1. Not to say every song on that album worked with Hit and Run Phase 1, but to me, a lot of it did work better. So with the anticipation of Welcome to America, it'll be nice to have a piece from that era between, say, 2010 and 2014 or 2015, and just to have something fresh, and again, not, something that we haven't really heard before. A lot of the tracks we haven't heard before. So that's going to be exciting. I'm really excited for that album to drop. And with The Truth, I'm excited for that to drop too, because I think that needs to stand apart from Crystal Ball. And I'm anxious for the world to discover that. Yeah. Again, we all have our favorite eras. And again, music is subjective. What's cool for me might not be cool for you, and vice versa. But remember, we're celebrating the legacy and the artistry of an artist that can go in so many different directions and put his stamp on it. So to do an album like The Truth, no, it doesn't have heavy rock guitar blazing through every song. No, it's not, it's not a funk, it's not a funk festival going on the record. This is an artist that can pretty much immerse himself into a genre, or take elements of a genre, bend it to his will, and give you something absolutely wonderful. Again, like, we all have our favorite timepieces. So a record like that, it gets in where it fits in. And again, a quote from an interview he did at one point: hey, I know not every album's going to sell, but I know somebody is going to at least buy one. And also for whatever, music critics or music aficionados, that stands apart as its own work of art to be experienced and celebrated. I used to just wonder, reading the liner notes to the Emancipation album, when that album, The Truth, was first sort of leaked. It was leaked at that point. And, just the anticipation, like, ooh, all acoustic album? What is that going to sound like? What kind of songs is he going to do? And, it's just him and acoustic guitar. Cool. Can't wait for the world to hear that, because he is that type of an artist to where he could have commanded a lot of attention. To me, I always imagined that had that been a standalone release in 1997 or 98, forget about Crystal Ball or forget about New Power Soul and forget it, if that album was to just come out as a standalone album, I think it would have done well with the pop charts. Might or might not have worked in an R&B setting or on the R&B charts. But as far as like pop, maybe kind of some rock, maybe classic or soft rock, adult contemporary, it would have worked. But I'm willing to bet that it would have garnered some type of Grammy nod. Again, I think the critics would have taken well to it. I think it would have done well. And if, promoted right, if it had the right videos at the time, I think it would have worked. So I'm, anxious to see this album, get some attention, even though it's just Record Store Day. But I figure it'll come out for the masses at some point, within the next 6 months to a year. I think it'll find its way onto CD if they don't decide to bundle it with a Crystal Ball reissue. And another thing I've noticed, kind of as people are celebrating on social media, or I should say remembering or acknowledging that, it's been 5 years since he passed. And during that time, the amount of material that has been released by the Prince estate, and, people kind of wondering, hey, this is my favorite, posthumous release. Or, the question is put forth, what is your favorite release by the estate? I noticed a lot of people have, said the 1999 Super Deluxe Edition. And a lot of people are still, buzzing about the Sign of the Time Super Deluxe Edition. I'm still buzzing on both, really. Remembering something Jimmy Jam said in an interview once, that, and this was when Prince was still alive, actually. But the fact that you have to kind of take your time and just let, put some distance with the years. In other words, just treat Prince music like a wine collection. It just gets better with time. And when you listen to something, some Prince music just, you have to let it catch up to you, or you have to catch up to it, really. That's really the thing. And I think he figured that out a long time ago, which is why we have so many different albums, which, he could have gone the route of any other, band or artist that was great, but they were treading water. And sometimes that's not a bad thing, but it's like they're treading water because they know this works. You wouldn't expect, say, like, the Ohio Players to come out with a classical album as their next record. Or you wouldn't expect, say, I don't know. I mean, the Commodores went left and maybe did like a country song or a country sounding song. But, it wasn't the whole album. It was just a song, just a track that, okay, sail on, next single. Just happens to sound country. But, they went right back to being the Commodores on the next single. Prince really wanted to do it all to the point to where, and especially post Purple Rain, to where it's like, nah. Again, Diamonds and Pearls, maybe the start of, let me try to catch up with the trend. But for the most part, as a whole, even say post Diamonds and Pearls, but definitely post Purple Rain, it was a thing of, no, y'all got to come to my level. I'm not going to give you 1999 2.0. I'm not going to give you Sign of the Times Part 3. You're going to get, this is what I'm feeling right now, and y'all going to dig it, or you're not going to dig it. And if you don't dig this, I know you're going to dig the next one. And, it's been heavy. The magnitude of music that we've received in the last 5 years is really, to be honest, what he's wanted to do from the very beginning. Not put out the vault like this, but he wanted to create albums, brand new albums, released at the frequency in which we're getting it now. If you really look at it, pre-1999 Super Deluxe, look at what we were able to get. We had originals, and then on top of that, we've had whatever Sony was in control of at that time. So you had where they were dropping them 3 deep, where you had a Chaos and Disorder and Emancipation, which, that's 3 CDs, 6 LPs. the Versace Experience, they were dropping 3 deep, or you would have something like Rave that was 2 months after we had Musicology 3121 and Planet Earth. This is what he wanted to do when he was living, is put out albums like that. Like, yeah, this is my new album. Bam. Okay, 2 months later, bam, here's my new album, another new album. It's heavy. And, reissues aside, super deluxe editions, by the time we got to those, first there's a remaster, which is something that we've all wanted for years, since Prince's material was available on CD, because everything was mastered for vinyl or it was mastered for cassette. And up until recently, that was the best way to listen to Prince. You can argue that a lot of the stuff recorded in Paisley Park, a lot of it's too clean, a lot of it's too perfect sounding or whatever, or there's certain nuances depending on which engineer you talk to that was there, where it's like, yeah, well, it could have gone this way, but he wanted it that way, or he didn't care about it sounding a certain way, or vice versa. But as far as the classic material, the classic 80s material, most of it recorded at home, which is what everybody does now with computers. But here he had a 16, track board and was recording albums, listen to the First Time album, listen to some parts of 1999 or some of Controversy. But I mean, just, the amazing amount of material, man, and to try to catch up. And I hate I can't listen to music the way that I'm accustomed or have been accustomed to listening to music my entire life. The time just isn't there for it. Something I'm going to have to definitely do something about, within the next 12 months. But I mean, there are things I'm still discovering or enjoying, or there's things that I need to, make time and really sit down and just immerse myself in it. Because, I mean, it's a lot, and that's a great thing. I hope this level of consistency doesn't stop. I know we're going to be getting stuff for, decades to come. And, I'm looking forward to being on the level. You look at somebody that was, whatever, say like a Beatles fan or Jimi Hendrix fan, and they were like in college or high school in the late 60s and the early 70s or whatever. And fast forward 50 plus years, to the 21st century, and look at what, as a fan, what they are getting in the way of box sets or live albums, documentaries, DVDs, and there's a lot of stuff within those, 50 years, so, here we are at a point to where, yeah, a lot of us got to experience Prince in real time throughout the 80s and going into the 90s, and we were able to accumulate things, or we've had things and lost things. Now we're getting back certain things, and certain things we're getting back with extra stuff. So imagine where we'll all be, in 25 years' time. Ooh, that's where, to where, it gets to a point, there might be still something coming out of the vault that we haven't heard, but there's 25 years of, releases that are, 2 or 3 releases a year, and 50% of that are box sets and deluxe editions and that type of stuff. And man, I can't wait. But for me, I don't know. I'm going to lean towards the 1999 Super Deluxe as my absolute favorite. Now, I can argue with both that one and the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe. Both of them are 2 to 3 songs missing, or 2 or 3 songs that could have been added to make them both absolute perfect Super Deluxe editions. I mean, to me, 1999 would be the 99.9999999% perfect. If they added a couple of extra songs, then it would be at that 100%. To me, Sign of the Times would be, to me, it's more 98% perfect. And I get the logic why certain songs were left off in the case of both Super Deluxe sets. But with the 1999 Super Deluxe edition, for me, I think it is the consistency of the vault tracks. I think they are fitting of that era, fitting of what may or may not have been part of that particular album. Where with the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe, there are vault tracks to me that would either belong better on a Parade Super Deluxe, or there's songs that really absolutely had nothing to do with Sign of the Times or the context of what the Sign of the Times what the Sign of the Times album was shaping up to be. Now, given, all of that, I still love this Sign of the Times Super Deluxe edition. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. And I love the packaging. And to me, it's the, it's a step up. It's a step up. But as far as, again, the consistency of the tracks, 1999, the Super Deluxe edition works better at that. So I'm leaning towards that as my favorite. Sign of the Times Super Deluxe being a very close second. Originals, I thought, was a great step in the right direction for what the estate is doing now. With the reissues are a given. Given all the legal entanglements of, what Prince had decided to do with Warner Brothers when he got his masters back, versus what happened after he passed, and the estate trying to do what they can to make the best deals possible. So with the Sony material, I was very happy with all of the reissues that they were doing. That was, of course, logical. That's all they had to work with. And that was good to buy the time until now. And again, Welcome to America it was a surprise for me, because I thought that they would just okay, well, we're going to release the original albums. They're going to be remastered. They'll be standalone. I thought we were going to get a big career box set. I was wrong about that. So this was a good, nice out of left, just out of left field surprise. Okay, Welcome to America. I, didn't see that one coming, but cool. I'll take it. So, this lets me know that the Prince estate, they're willing to think outside of the box when it comes to what we're getting. They're not going for the obvious, like I said, like I thought with, just autumn. And I mean, that doesn't mean that they still won't do that. I mean, I have a feeling that they will at some point. But the fact that there's, Welcome to America, there's still, I guess, rumors about Diamonds and Pearls being the next Super Deluxe edition. Again, not one of my favorite albums, but it was an album that I did play a lot of when it was out. 1991 to 1992. It got a lot of, play in the car for me or at home or whatever. I enjoyed, a lot of the songs on it. Still do, if I do break it out to play. To me, it doesn't hold up as well. I mean, Get Off to me pretty much stands the test of time in a way. Especially, its inclusion into the sequel to Coming to America. I thought that was great, breathing new life into that. So, I would be looking forward to a Super Deluxe. There are some outtakes from that I used to have in really bad quality, but I had fun straining my ears to hear Something Funky, This House Comes, the original version of The Flow, Schoolyard. So I'm looking forward to those being on a Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe edition. That particular tour, I used to have, I forgot what show it was. Maybe not, let's see, was it Rotterdam? I forgot. I used to have a CD, bootleg CD of it. Don't have it anymore. But I don't know. I have to go revisit that period as far as the live performances. To me, like prior to that, like the new tour was exciting. So I'm looking forward to that getting like a standalone DVD release, or, heck, maybe being part of a Graffiti Bridge Super Deluxe, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, if you can put it all on one Blu-ray, I guess it's possible to do that. Just have a live concert from the Diamonds and Pearls tour and the videos, the music videos for that. Because I know some of that was, it had like live stuff mixed in with it, and then like interviews and stuff like that. That was cool. And I think I ended up at some point playing the video of that more than listening to the Diamonds and Pearls album by the time that was released. But yeah, I would be cool with it. It's, to me, like I always, say, Planet Earth is not my favorite, but I have good memories. It was an album that got me through or helped me get through stuff, whatever was happening in 91, 92. And like I said, it was an enjoyable album, Diamonds and Pearls. So again, like I said, it just shows that they're willing to really think outside of the box and not go for being predictable. And, I respect and applaud that more. Because, yeah, as much as I would want a Parade Super Deluxe, or as much as I would want a Controversy Super Deluxe, as much as I feel that Controversy in its 40th anniversary should be celebrated, but that doesn't rule out a 50th anniversary celebration. And I know Controversy fans everywhere are like, that's too long to wait. And I hear you. But I would be willing to wait, if it's a 50-year celebration for that. A 50th anniversary of Purple Rain. If they do a 50th anniversary super deluxe that's the size of the Sign of the Time Super Deluxe Edition. Take the piano and microphone 1983 and just put it in with that, because you have possibly the absolute earliest version of Purple Rain, earliest version of 17 Days that's on it. And you see a lot of artists when they have their box sets, and they have those sort of early takes and early demos of stuff. And we know Prince was not really known as a demo person. Virtually, 75, 85% of his output were nearly, if not fully finished, but at least at minimum, nearly finished songs. So, again, in his own words, demos were a rarity when it came to Prince. So, so having that, just bundle that and have that as part of the, future 50th anniversary of Purple Rain Super Deluxe Edition. I'm calling that one. Heard it here first. But again, very excited that they are thinking outside of the box and, willing to give us different things that allow us to take a deeper dive into things that we might not normally would take a deep dive on our own, because we're immersed in, just whatever our favorites are, whatever our go-to Prince album or song or track, or just whatever we're feeling at the moment. It might take us a while before we're in the mood to take another look at Diamonds and Pearls, or take another look into, 2011, like, wow, this is what Prince was writing in 2011, and we never got to experience it. So, I'm, again, very excited that this is the direction. And I guess, as they do have a plan. But as they discover things, it inspires them down another road. I always read stuff with Eddie Kramer or John McDermott. Whenever there's kind of a new Hendrix something that's coming out, when they do the interviews and they talk about how, they still discovering things now, and whatever Hendrix's vault, they find tapes. Someone had a tape of something in their possession and it was in a closet for 50 years, and it's like, oh, we got to put this on an album, come out with a new compilation. This track would be great for that. As they were originally archiving material, they would talk about how they would discover certain things, and when they would listen to it and go, box set, set it aside. And I think it took a few, so when the Hendrix estate got full control of Jimmy's masters, between the first reissues of his albums, a couple of compilations here and there, it was about maybe 4 or 5 years before an official box set, because they were still, again, in same case, 5-year span, still archiving, still cataloging things. They had enough to, okay, this is the plan for A, B, C, and D, plus a few surprises here and there. But they were conscious that at some point a box set was part of the plan. And as they were archiving material, they would discover a track or a live track and go, okay, we're working on this compilation, but hey, what's this? Where'd this come from? Box set, set it aside. So that, I think, is what's going on with the Prince estate at present, in its sort of 5-year mission so far. And again, it's very exciting. And we just hope at some point that this, what we do to support the estate gets them closer and closer to settling things or getting things on track to where his family can benefit, from the rewards of that. But it's, it is a good place that they own it and, not some greedy corporate entity, is, in full control of it where they don't have say. I know there's been some rumblings where some certain family members feel that they don't have a voice in it, and then there's one or two that do. But as a collective, I am glad it is in 100% in their hands, if nothing else, to, say yay or nay for. So, yeah. So again, like I said, this is sort of an off the top of the dome celebration. Because, wow, that's, it's just fascinating how, I don't know, at one point, Prince was just one of the musics to me. I've told this on Amari Purple Talk a million times before about how, I would hear Soft and Wet. And this is like, sort of summer, roughly around summer 1978. And would just hear Soft and Wet on the radio. And, and it was always in that block of songs, remember DJs used to say, okay, we're going to have five in a row for you coming right up here on KATZ or AM. And, so-and-so, 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 Stevie Wonder, so-and-so, so-and-so, the Commodores, Parliament Funkadelic. And, I would come in the middle somewhere. So it's like, then there would be something I would recognize, like, okay, Groove Line would just, Heat Wave would just finish. And then all of a sudden, and then it's like, hey, I like that. Who, who is it? And would never get it. And I think as far as radio play, I think kind of, like I said, I just remember like maybe 2 weeks during the summer, I would always catch it and miss it, who it was. And then I think by late summer, fall, it just kind of, at least as far as St. Louis radio, at least as far as my listening habits, from my perspective, it just kind of died off somewhere. And, didn't think much of it after that. And, but like I said, Heat Wave, Parliament Funkadelic, if you're talking like 78, that was my main listening. The Jacksons, of course, Destiny. Let's see, what else? Bee Gees, really. Yeah, that was sort of in my realm, and then by the time we got to 79, I was entrenched in just about anything that Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards was doing. Managed to get all of the chic I could get my hands on. Summer 79, I picked up, Sister Sledge's We Are Family. And, I just, Nile Rodgers' rhythm guitar playing is, the absolute best. As far as my favorite rhythm guitarists, there's Nile Rodgers, there's John Lennon, there's Jimmy Nolan, and Prince. Enough, you could say whatever, the guitar solos or people just automatically just go to the guitar solos. And yes, those are absolutely amazing as well. But to me, not enough emphasis is put on Prince's rhythm guitar playing. And if you don't believe me, by all means, you play Controversy, you play Sexuality, you play Jerk Out. Second to none, you know. Unless, like I said, Jimmy Nolan, who was James Brown's rhythm guitarist and invented that. And I'm telling you, between those four, all I ever wanted to do on a record is that's all I want to do. That's it. The whole record. Every record. That's it. That's just all I want to do. But you get to like even 80, 81, just about everybody on Solar Records, just being a teenager, and a teenager that was just into records, into music, into albums. And, not even thinking about, playing music or anything 24/7. Like I said, with the Chic, I just started picking it up and trying to be Nile Rodgers and not making it at all. But, it was just everything that was coming over FM radio, everything that was happening. And then watching things like Don Kirshner's rock concert with the Cars and the Police and stuff like that. Yeah, Prince wasn't even on the radar at that particular point. And, it just wasn't until that, like, late spring, summer of 81. And, like I said, I had a decent component set. Had the tape deck. You could, actually, I think it had dual cassette, if I remember, where you could just record. You could record the vinyl. You could record another cassette. In fact, it even had 8-track. So that was a cool little component set, though. But yeah, a friend of mine down the street, he would just borrow folks' albums and, get a hold of a blank tape or get a hold of a tape he didn't mind recording over. Sometimes I might have one laying around too, and he would just borrow records and bring them over and dub them and, return the vinyl to whoever he borrowed it from. And that was it. And like I said, just one day he brought Dirty Mind and he brought Tina Marie's Irons in the Fire. And it was because of those two albums I had become lifelong fans of both. And by the time it got to the fall of 81 and I heard Controversy on the radio for the first time, and they played the album version, and just the it was just like, this cat is just bold, because it's like, okay, I absorbed all of Dirty Mind, so now it's like, okay, I get it, I get what he's doing, I get where he's coming from, this is cool. He's like, kind of on this artist tip. He's in the class by himself, and this is cool because, at 15, if you're into music or you're a musician, this was the person for you. We had years of George Clinton and we had years of Bootsy. So it was like, okay, we were entrenched in that well enough. But for somebody that was coming along that was, bit younger, older than us, but definitely younger than, George Clinton or Bootsy. And it's like, just on this whole other thing. And like I said, a lot of us, we absorbed, some of what was coming over on Don Kirshner's rock concert too. I was kind of going through YouTube and would find just snippets of old radio, and listening to something like a KTZ where it was like, yeah, they were playing the Ohio Players and they were playing, Johnny Taylor or whatever. And then, all of a sudden I start to hear Band on the Run, Paul McCartney and Wings. And it's like, oh, damn, that's right. They did used to play that. Or you would jump over to, KXOK, and it's the same thing. It's like all this sort of pop and, but they're playing the Silvers and then they're playing something. So it was, it was good radio back then. But to have been entrenched in all of that and then finally have this artist kind of break through and then put his own stamp onto things and to do it and be so far to the left, pre-Purple Rain, that was, that was the level, to have an artist like, like that to where, while we're absorbing Shalimar and we're absorbing Lakeside and we're still absorbing George Clinton, where he'd had, sort of black mainstream success. Here's this artist kind of a little bit more underground for us because he was so far to the left because it wasn't just funk. He was doing the same thing that the Cars were doing or that the Police were doing or that, whatever Blondie was doing, there was that spin on it too. And that was cool. It was just like, okay, here's this kind of underground cat that we can kind of keep to ourselves and, and just listen to when we just want to hear something different or we feeling like we just want to be deep or we just, if you were whatever type of artist, whether you were into drawing or photography or whatever, and, there weren't a lot of people around you that had that similar mindset. Here was an artist, even though it was just music, but you felt like he understood because it was like he was on his own path that was different than what Michael Jackson was doing or, what the Ohio Players were doing or what Earth, Wind and Fire was doing or, even different from what Rick James was doing, or he took what Rick James was doing and did it even differently, or better in some cases, and like I said, I was entrenched into Rick James too. That was the sort of the gold standard of, hardcore at that time, and here comes Prince and went even more to the left than Rick did. And it's just, wow. It was just amazing. And like I said, just that kind of underground. And even as the momentum was building, Controversy was another level. 1999 was an even higher level. And just when you thought, like, okay, cool, he's got a little crossover. All right, the pop stations getting hip to it. The white kids are getting hip to it a little bit, through MTV. But it was still like that sort of, that 1983 for me as a fan was the epitome. That was the peak for me. Crystallized in that 1983 Rolling Stone article with Prince and Vanity on the cover. Because remember, it was like Purple Rain was kind of at the beginning stages of creation at that point. I think maybe within a week or two of that article, we realized that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were no longer part of the time. But that article, that's the myth. So when a lot of sort of late era fans are wondering what all the fuss is about, pre-Purple Rain, like I said, he was sort of that underground cat that we kept to ourselves. And really a lot of us in the black community, we kept him to ourselves. Because like I said, if, yeah, there was enough funk, there were enough ballads that kept the mainstream, as far as the black community, kept them interested, kept them excited, kept them listening. But for those of us that went out, got the albums, and indulged, when we got that first Time album and indulged, what time is it the next year? And just indulged. It was like, yeah, this is this little cool kids thing happening. And this is great, because we never had that. Everything was sort of, once it hit Soul Train, the game was up. It was like it belonged to everybody at that point. And, it was sort of a given when you had that. But when you got, when you sat down and you listened to 1999, the album itself, you listen to Automatic, and you think you're the only one listening to Automatic, or you think you're the only one that's listening to Let's Pretend We're Married, because not, most people thought, like, some people liked the songs, but it was just like, oh, Prince is weird, Prince is this, Prince is that, whatever. And that was okay to a certain point, because it's like you were in on it. You knew, you were, if you were that sort of deep dive fan at that time, like I said, you knew. And the Jamie Starr mystique and all of that, that was the period. So when you wonder as a later fan what all the fuss is about, that's what it was. So just imagine, if you're into other musics, or whoever your contemporaries are, since you came into the Prince game late, then think of whatever contemporary where then too, the music business isn't like it used to be, where you had those 3, 4, 5 albums to build that following. And then you had on album number 5, that album that just catapulted you to the mainstream. Post Thriller, any new artist was expected to do 1 million off the top, or else, sayonara. So, but occasionally there's still an artist that is just your best, or from your perspective, your best kept secret. The one that you dig and not everybody's caught up to yet, until maybe album 2, 3, 4, whatever. Even if they're selling 1 million off the bat on the first one, then the second one is 2 million, and the fourth one is 10 million, or whatever, and the world's caught on and the game is up at that point. That's what that feeling is when it comes to that first album, or that first era that you got into, and it was just you in that room and you're listening. And maybe you were lucky at some point to, have a best friend that was in on it too, to say, yeah, I dig that cut. You dig that cut too? Oh, cool. And now, but it's still your best kept secret. And then the world catches up to it. And now, here we are. We're now the Prince musical singularity. But that was sort of the flashpoint. Where Dirty Mind, or in a lot of cases, even For You, those, I would say, For You, Prince, Dirty Mind, that was the big bang. But to me, 1983, just as 1999 was winding down, as the Triple Threat Tour was winding down, and it was now transitioning into recording songs for Purple Rain and the beginning of the filming of Purple Rain, that Rolling Stone article was sort of the flashpoint for the mythology. Or, no, maybe not necessarily the flashpoint, the last hurrah for the myth, the last hurrah for the underground, the sort of the end of this whole Prince musical singularity being the best kept secret. But I didn't realize that at that time. I think just only in the last, actually, it's kind of since I started doing this show, and as I put certain topics together based on the particular topic, I forget which episode, but that's when I came to that realization that that was sort of the myth, where being 17 at that time, and here your underground artist hero is now on the cover of one of the most respected, rock and roll magazines on the planet. And it was like, cool, he made it, it's like, cool. He's in that echelon now, he's there with, Bowie and Jagger and, whoever, when you look at those old Rolling Stone covers and how cool a lot of those covers used to look back in the 70s and the early 80s, and to see Prince in there, to me, it was more exciting than seeing Michael Jackson on there, because it's like, okay, yeah, cool. Michael, Thriller's big record, and of course, yeah, he'll be on the cover of Rolling Stone. But to have Prince on there was, for me, was even more exciting to see that for the first time. And even though it wasn't an interview, like I said, it was an article. But like I said, that article, if you haven't had a chance, go seek out that article, and you can just see the myth. It's the myth that's projected. And like I said, imagine yourself, you don't know about any of the eras because they haven't happened yet, but just imagine yourself as a teenager, and you're reading that article in Rolling Stone. And to think, and you look at what else is going on around, it's like, yeah, cool. Michael Jackson's taking over the world with Thriller. But, here's this thing is cool. It's like, there's The Time, and then there's Vanity 6, and, there's Prince with 1990, just all of that. And it's this community. It's this thing that was sort of the 80s equivalent of what Parliament Funkadelic was, just kind of, wrapped up in a, with 80s sensibilities, pretty much. And you were experiencing this for the first time. It's unfolding in real time. But like I said, I didn't put that together then because, there was still the anticipation of what Purple Rain was going to be. All we knew was that, he's going to make this movie. And basically, we just thought that, it's going to be like this little underground, little hip, cool rock and roll kind of a, not necessarily rock and roll per se, but like, this little movie, it's not, it's not Avengers Endgame, it's just going to be this cool little thing, just like, Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. It's this cool thing. It's one of the most respected rock films or rock concert films of all time. Or, something like The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night. Although that was pretty mainstream. That was big box office. But something like I would say like Stop Making Sense. I can't think of any other ones. But we didn't think it would be on the level as, say Elvis's earliest films, his 50s films, where it's like there's this big deal, it's big box office, it's making all this money. and everybody's flocking to the theaters to go see it. There was this big, again, that myth carried over into the anticipation. Like, well, what's this movie going to be about? It's going to be this little dark thing, and is, Prince acting in it? Or is it a concert? What's going on with this Purple Rain? What's Purple Rain? What does that mean? And as you got into kind of spring of 1984, it's like, what's this all about? What is this thing? And then in May, when Dove's Cry drops, and I'm hearing that on the radio for the first time, and man, I still get chills now. As many times as I've heard When Doves Cry, as many times as I can hear it, unless I'm actually putting myself back into May of 1984, it's like when I do that, man, just the just how I felt then, I can recapture that emotion. Like, I was totally blown away. To me, that was the best thing he had ever done. Just that track, was the best thing. I mean, it was deep. It was definitely next level. It was a step up, and it that track, it still had the, produced, written, arranged, and performed by on the credits on that single. And man, it was just like, I mean, again, like I said, didn't think about the myth or anything like that. We just took it as gospel in those days. We were just starting to figure out that there was no Jamie Starr, that Prince did all of the time, did all the Vanity Six stuff. The game was pretty much up by then, but not to the level of how we understand it now, which is the other thing. But hearing like When Doves Cry was just like the epitome of, that was such a damn good record. And then when I got the 45, and then hearing 17 Days, and even though that had like Prince and the Revolution, I ended up playing that more. Because again, I think somehow radio got a hold of the album version. And then when I got the 45 and it kind of just fades out at the guitar solo, it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I still love this track. It's amazing. Okay, can't wait to get the album and hear the album version. But it was kind of like, okay, yeah, it fades out. All right. This is cool. This is still a great record. But let me flip that over and play that 17 Days. Because that 17 Days is just, whoo, that was just amazing. And there was also a show called Radioscope, and it was a syndicated show. A lot of people like that are sort of, they're journalists, but you know the names because they were so associated with Prince. I mean, they did all of black music, but I don't know if it was because, Prince probably respected these people more, or however they were getting the exclusives and stuff like that. But Stephen Ivory is the name that stands out the most. Lee Bailey was sort of the guy that hosted the show and did segments. But Steve Ivory also did segments for this program too. But what was cool about that radio program was, like I said, you got all the stuff on all of black music, but they would get a hold of these Prince exclusives, and you would just glue yourself to the radio listening. And they were the ones that they had the hallway version, because originally at that time, that version was supposed to be on Purple Rain, but Prince, edited it down to make room for Take Me With You. But when they leaked that hallway version, so Doves Cry, 17 Days, thinking we're going to get the hallway version on Purple Rain based on that Radioscope leak. Exciting. And granted, I mean, Purple Rain, the album, it didn't disappoint. It to me, though it wasn't quite the 1999-esque that I was expecting, it's still a great album. And again, the way that each album is different, and to what he was going to do after Purple Rain on top of that, there's no denying its place in music history or rock history or Prince history or anything like that. But, it became what it became. It's his Thriller. But, Prince sort of had the mindset to say, I'm not even going to try to top this. I'm just going to go to the left and y'all just going to get on my level. And here we are, in 2021, and we're still, marveling at the diversity, the genius. That, like I said, this could be a 4-hour program. And like I said, if you guys put comments on what Prince is to you, whether it's music, albums, films, just your personal experiences. Like I said, we could do a part 2 to this quick. But I know for me, like I said, I can make this a whole 4-hour show, but I'll, try to wrap it up here to say that there are so many moments, to where not only did the music bring me joy, or if it brought me comfort, if it challenged me on a level of musical taste, if it challenged me on a philosophical level, if it challenged me on a lyrical level, or what's the image, or does it inspire you to be yourself? To me, like I said, there's a lot of artists that inspire me, because it's great music. If it's if it's funk, then I'm elevated to joy. If it's a ballad, then it's inspires you to love, or if you're going through something, it's a comfort, or if you're going through loss, those type of things. Maybe a certain musician's style of playing, it's like, oh, I like that band, but what the bass player is doing is phenomenal, or the band as a unit, man, that band doesn't work if it doesn't have the original members in it, that type of thing. But what Prince was able to do, and I think for a lot of us in the Prince musical singularity, was to be able to just get into our DNA in a way that, again, like I said, there was a point when, he was kind of just one of the musics. Like I said, I was heavy into the whole Solar Records thing, Shalimar, Whispers, Lakeside, Dynasty, that whole thing, again, Parliament Funkadelic, Chic, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Jacksons, radio was different, black and white radio was different, the DJs were more entrenched in the communities and stuff. So that music was a reflection not only of their sensibilities and taste, because there were a lot of times when there was stuff being played, it wasn't the single, it wasn't the hit. It was like, hey, this particular track on this album, I dig it, and I'm going to play it. Or, they reflected what the people in the community wanted to hear. Nowadays it's different. There's some cat that's, rock climbing somewhere that really doesn't know what, let alone what black people listen to, but any people listen to. It's just like, okay, we're gonna just play these 10 songs, the so-called, what Prince used to call the sidewinders or the mamma jammers, deciding your musical fate and your musical taste, and why you hear a song 8 million times in a day that you can't stand, but for some weird reason it's number one on the charts. R&B, hip hop, rock, pop, whatever it is. It's like, no. And people are smarter than that. Young people are smarter than that. Older people are smarter than that. Where, they gravitate, smarter people, they gravitate towards what's good and what sounds good. So, that's the beauty of Prince. Like I said, he challenged our tastes and sensibilities. To where, again, like using The Truth as an example, to put that record out and say, I dare you not to like that. Because I think it's great, and that's what I was feeling. Bam, here it is. Because it's different. Yeah, I know you were expecting Purple Rain 2.0, but nope, not going to get that. Expecting to get your Purple Rain on, you've come to the wrong place. And remember too, this is our perspective. It's very egotistical to think that, our experiences or journeys or whatever, or I don't know, spiritual or divine destiny is yours and yours alone, or mine and mine alone. It's very egotistical to think that. But Prince, as somebody that was definitely living his existence and evolving, was all things to all people, or all things or different things to different people. Not everybody got 100% Prince, and no human being can be what they are, who they are, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week straight. That's sort of almost the point of being a human being, is that you are not going to be up all the time, nor are you going to be down all the time. But the journey is to find that balance, or to seek that spiritual elevation in whatever, form you choose, so long as it's positive, so long as it doesn't harm a single human being. So long as as long as you're elevating yourself to a positive frequency, instead of, elevating yourself to look down on others. So long as you're moving in the frequency of the positive, through human experience, or basically the gist of it is we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And in that experience, to remember what it's like to be a spiritual being, you're going to live through experience, which means that you're going to deal with adversity in some way, shape, or form. Or sometimes you may end up being an adverse person as a means for someone to balance the equation, or for you to figure out if you need to balance the equation. And that's it. So, we celebrate, but, we don't put him to godlike status to where, those that are closest to him, regardless of the experience, if it was good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't invalidate that person's experience with Prince. And I believe for the most part that he was trying to do the best that he could. Fame isn't easy. Success isn't easy. lots of money, I can imagine, isn't easy. And not every day is going to be a good day. Or, we arm ourselves spiritually the best way that we can. God, maybe he didn't need the high heels. And if that was a contributing factor to him being in so much pain, could there have been another way? Could a more holistic approach could have helped? Could that, keep him, could that have kept him with us? That's a question that's only answered in a timeline that we don't have access to. But like I said, apparently his purpose was to live his best life and along the way influence and, to the best of his abilities, affect a positive change, in or with people around him, or the world at large. Yeah. He was black. Yes, where he grew up, like I said, it was kind of like where I grew up, only smaller as far as black population. Just smaller, but same set of circumstances, the same advantages or disadvantages were there. And only few of us make it out of that, or most of us get to a certain level. He transcended a lot of levels and was able to use that platform to reach back. And that's not to disqualify the fact that, hey, yeah, love for one another is the ultimate goal. But one of the pieces to help facilitate that is that we as black people have to be on a certain level too, or be on a higher level, not on some supremacy trip, but, to be on a level as a culture to where we as a people, just like other people from other places, whether, you're Jewish or Italian or, Japanese or Chinese or Korean or whatever, there are a lot of levels, or economic levels, caste systems, class systems. There are haves and have-nots in every single culture. But there are cultures at the end of the day, despite those fundamental differences, that when it comes down to it as a collective, when it comes to putting everything on the line to say, hey, enough is enough. And when a certain group is disenfranchised to where, or divided over the course of centuries, to where getting on that same page is one of the biggest challenges without having to dispel everything that, you're taught to believe, and start from scratch and say from day one, this is who we are going to be through our economics, our religion, our education, everything, so we can eliminate the ills that continue to keep us down, to where other people in the world feel like that they can, put a knee to your neck. I believe that Prince was reaching back to provide that inspiration, to provide those building blocks, to create systems that could create opportunities for people to, again, it didn't have to be about music, didn't have to be about sports. The biggest thing, the yes we code, that was his idea. So we can have some black Mark Zuckerbergs in the world, or some black Bill Gates in the world, and I mean, not just working for somebody, but to create an alternative to Facebook, or create an alternative to Microsoft, create an alternative to Apple. Maybe somebody black to, build spaceships that don't crash every week. Because we've been through enough of the ringer to know, like, hey, we're going to build this. We're going to build it because we know the world's watching. We can't afford to mess up. So, trust me, we build that spaceship. It ain't crashing. It's crashing. There's some sabotage. And we need to be looking at some folks. And we need some, a federal inquiry as to who sabotaged this. So I think, that's the thing. It's all of it. It's all there. It's all the music. As diverse as the music is, like I said, there's music that's rooted deeply in the black community, and that cannot be forgotten. There's a hope for the world that we can all be together and be united. That's there in the music as well. There's examples of generosity, acts of kindness. That was something that someone submitted as a topic in previous episodes ago. To where, that was inspiring. That question in itself, because that person locked in on who he was, at his core. Yeah. So, I mean, if, you want to be like Prince, then commit an act of kindness, random act of kindness throughout, this week. And that was fun, because I really, went out of my way to try to do that, and that's a good feeling. And it's, being in a place where I really feel I don't make a difference, where everything, no matter how good you try to do your job every day, it's just, there's no gratitude. There's, the higher ups or whatever, they ain't really looking out after you. They ain't checking for you. They ain't trying to make sure you're all right. The bottom line is about the loot. There's less of us. It's stressful now, or even more stressful now. Like I said, so that week was, I felt better, because that was something I really wanted to succeed at doing. That particular week, because that was that's not a challenge in a bad way, but like, he's got to be someplace looking at all of this, number one, hopefully feeling good that he accomplished a lot of what he set out to do, even though he probably was in the midst of trying to do even more. And in certain things, and especially looking at the world the way that it is now, that he probably like, damn, I should have been here to do more, or I could do more. But hopefully, where he is now, he's looking at all of us, and it's like, yeah, cool, y'all buying the records. But what's most important is that on an individual level, if it's making you feel better as a person, then cool, he can rest up there comfortably. If, I would say, if we're having these discussions, not just about race or whatever, but if we're having these discussions about how can we create or be creators ourselves, it doesn't have to be just music. For those of us that can play at least a note, cool, do that. Create whatever you can. Or if you make movies, or even if it's nothing to do with the arts, whatever it is that you can create that, create yourself, create your life. I struggle with, because I'm in a place where I didn't think that I would end, especially for this long too, but it's a means to an end. It allows me to sit here and do this show every week. Grateful. Keeps the lights on, keeps food on the table, all of that. A multitude of responsibilities. Yeah, responsibilities means that you are an adult and you are being a responsible adult. But it's okay to dream, and it's okay to create, and it's okay to transcend what you are, and that you don't have to stay limited at who you are either. And I think to continue and carry on his particular legacy, that's one of the things to do. Because I think that's one of the, if you've read The Beautiful Ones, if not, by all means, go out and get that book. Because it wasn't enough to just make music for the sake of making music. He was making music because he felt he was driven enough. There was something inside of him that was constantly driving him to create and create and create and leave nothing undone. There was enough surplus to where some things were, in his words, unfinished, but that was just in his eyes. A lot of this stuff we can listen to and go, you give that to so-and-so, so-and-so, that person can eat off of that one hit record for life. But, in a way, like Michael Jackson, there was a need to make a difference. And both of them, that's why they were on the level that they ended up being. And few people get to that level. There's great artists, bands, whatever, that are great and have had beautiful careers. And also, too, with their music, inspired generations of people, not only just yesterday, but today and tomorrow too. But they never got to that level like a Prince or Michael Jackson, like that. So that drive, was beyond just talent. It was just, beyond just music, And I think that drive was because that if to stop, then he wouldn't be able to stay on that particular frequency to say, books, albums like Books and Black Lives Matter, to say, love for one another and do things, charities and stuff that was done quietly, or, reach back to people that influenced him. And if, here's one of the greatest drummers on the planet Earth and they're broke and in bad health, to be in a position to pay that brother's medical bills, to reach back to someone like a Marva Collins and, provide a platform to where underprivileged Black children can have an opportunity for a quality of education that they weren't going to get in just a regular Chicago public school system, or anybody's school system for that matter. So that to me is the drive. And, that's the thing, this week, as we near April 21st. That's, in addition to celebrating your favorite song, album, era, concert, movie, music video, interview, speech, all of it, what's it all for? And, like I said, let's not get, lost into sorrow or grief. There's a physical presence that's missed. Yes, I would trade every super deluxe edition and posthumous release. I would trade it all in to have him here now, and in the midst of all this stuff going on, him do the concert from Paisley Park or drop the album of all albums that would just totally blow us away, because I know he would have been inspired to say something about all of this and help us figure it out. But we want the good thoughts and the good vibrations to travel to him wherever he is, and to let him know, it's cool, to borrow from in game, you can rest now, we got this from here, we've got it, we've got the podcast juice, we got Prince's Friend, we've got Darling Niecy, we've got the Prince Lyrics podcast, we've got DJ UMB, Edgar Cruz, we've got D'Angela, we've got all of you out there, everybody that listens to this show, you listen to the other shows. We've still got Morris and Andre and Jill and Jesse, and we've got Wendy, Lisa, Sheila E, Apollonia. We've all got it. Kat, Robin, Maite and Manuela, we've all got it. We've all got it. So, we're gonna keep this legacy going, and we're gonna bring all the perspectives, and we're gonna keep it real, and we're not gonna let the sidewinders and the mamma jammers distort and whitewash any of that. Just let them know, hey, cool, it's okay, you can rest. Thank you for the musical DNA, to be dominant, through our listening experiences. I know it's like, past 1984, 85, 86. Nah, there can't be a musical conversation that can be had without Prince being a part of it, really. Yeah, so end this by saying thank you, Prince. Thank you, everyone that listens to Amari Purple Talk. And we will go back to, depends. Like I said, if I get enough comments and responses, we'll do a part 2 where, like I said, we'll get your thoughts out there into the narrative as well, as part of the celebration as well. But other than that, if that doesn't happen, we'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled program. Maybe I'll talk about the Gold Experience, and I'll figure out this, what's the latest on the lawsuit, and will we ever see the Gold Experience again? Or will we ever see the Gold Experience in its original form? These questions and these will be answered in future episodes of Amari Purple Talk. Thank you once again for tuning in. Be sure to check out AmariCommunications.com and check out what a brother's been up to, what he's been doing. Purchase some Purchase some Amari Purple Talk merchandise. That helps keep this show going. So too, a little few other projects that are in the mix that hopefully I can announce soon. There's a couple of things I've leaked if you've gone on Instagram, but definitely just purchase some merchandise. Get a Purple Talk t-shirt, We Funk t-shirt. Got mugs, masks, water bottles, some cool stuff. So by all means, check it out. And, the world seems like every other day gets crazier. So again, let's use Prince music. Let's celebrate, keep our spirits up. Let's not be overwhelmed by grief. And it's okay to be upset and mad about things, but let's channel that energy into making a positive change for the world. And let's do that. Let's have love for one another. Let's commit some more acts of random kindness out there this week. Let's try to lead this. Let's succeed at making this world a lot better than how we found it. Live your best life. Create your best destiny. Dare to create. And until next week, keep it purple and on the one.